Both of these guys just got nerfed. That's why we're bringing you the 2025 Complete Artifact Abyss Starter Guide. Last time we covered Giants, Dragons, and Necros, so now with Steel Fortress and Punisher's Crypt, that's it. That's all of Kairos. Wow, guys. We did it. And without forgetting anyone, too. Both of their HPs got reduced and their passives got adjusted in such a way that it should make them a lot more approachable for new players. If you want to know why artifacts are so important, I implore you to watch the Beginner's Guide to Artifacts that's already on the channel. If you're new to the game and you just don't know what the buzz is all about, here are the bullet points. Artifacts augment the skills of your monster. Sometimes they'll also augment the damage they take, the damage they give, or add on an additional effect. But you get the idea, okay? They're important, all right? That's all I'm trying to get across, right? Can we just get to the teams? Steel Fortress. Whenever the boss is attacked, he's going to try to get a couple of buffs that are just going to completely impede your ability to do any damage to him. He does a lot more, but if we build the team right, it shouldn't matter. Though he will occasionally try to stun members of your team, okay? Just keep that in mind. We're going to go through the team in turn order. Starting us off is our first buff blocker, Second Awakened Zinc, Argon, or Ling Ling. My main recommendation is Second Awakened Zinc if you happen to have him, because he was built for the Steel Fortress. He has buff block on every single skill. That's basically a passive. In fact, he was featured on the top 10 units with fake passives on the channel. The buff block is truly all we need him for, but he does offer other stuff, such as, but not limited to, defense break on skill 2, also attack break and a conditional slow debuff. Super cool. Could have stopped at buff block. It's really all we need. If you're ruining Zinc, you can put him on double will, because if you have him moving first, one set of will won't do anything. It doesn't protect him from being stunned, because he'll immediately come out of will on his first turn. So putting him on 2 sets ensures that he has immunity on him still when it comes back to his turn and the boss is deploying that stun. For your final set, I still have Mind Ruined on guard. He scales with defense, so it's an important stat for him. Make sure to get some accuracy in the substats or in your artifacts, which, considering that we're in the Abyss section, you should already have some. For Ling Ling, folks like to rune her on Violent, and they also use Focus to ensure that she has enough accuracy to land what she needs to land. Argon also needs to land his debuffs, but you could just rune him the same way that you'd rune your Ergar, the Dark Vampire Lord. Put him on like Fatal or Rage if you've got access to it. Speaking of Ergar, he's the next unit to move on the team, and he's available in the Ancient Coin Shop. Ergar provides that attack buff as well as the vampire buff that he helped found. But what's so important about him is that he has buff block as well as multiple other debuffs on his skill 2. And since he gets a built-in extra turn from skill 3, there's no need to put him on Violent. You can put him on either Fatal or Rage, have him contribute to damage, and then he'll immediately get an extra turn and try to apply those very important debuffs to the boss. Now, for the purposes of this video, I'm recommending that he moves second on the team and have Zinc lead. The reason for that is because Zinc has that chance to apply buff block on every skill. So that means regardless of whatever skill Zinc opens with, he's gonna at least attempt to put a buff block. Ergar might derp and use skill 1. I've seen it and I hate it, but it happens. So while there is definitely an argument for having Ergar move first so that way the attack buff is already on everybody by the time it gets to Zinc, I'm recommending he moves second, purely for that reason, okay? You do as you want to do. It should also be noted that Ergar has an incredible leader skill, 38% attack power lead in dungeons, so that's a great option. And if Zinc happens to miss, now here's Ergar to take a second chance to try to apply that. Next up, Lauren the Light Cowgirl. She's here to apply defense break, slow debuffs, heal blocks, and also reduce attack bar. Lauren is a unit that's seen some change since the last time we talked about this dungeon. Triple Fight has become a much more prevalent rune set for her. Considering that this is a starter guide, I would still recommend that you go for either Double Will, Swift, Violent, what have you, to make sure that she's safe. But if you're feeling particularly aggressive, you could just throw her on Triple Fight and all of a sudden she's benefiting the team with extra attack. Speed HP or Speed HP accuracy on 2-4-6 slots. Second Awakened Crow. Second Awakened Crow is here for debuff scaling damage. There are usually about 4 debuffs on the boss, but there can be 6 with the team that we've assembled here today. And the damage on Crow's third skill, Scar, increases by 50% per debuff on the target. If that sounds crazy, it is. This dog is the reason why the team is going to be fast. You can rune Crow on Fatal or Rage Blade. Prioritize crit rate and crit damage, and just make it so he moves around here on the team. And lastly, it's Bernadotte the Fire Shadow Claw. His third skill also scales with debuffs on the enemy, and it applies a brand, almost like we have a second Crow. And since he can combo into his skill 2 as long as he crits with all of the hits in skill 3, He's usually there to like clean up the rest of the HP after Crow moves. You can put him on Fatal or whatever you've got lying around. Ultimately, we want him to do damage. So let me be clear, he needs a little bit of crit rate, but if you'd prefer to just focus on crit damage, you can supplement what you're missing with his crit rate leader skill. Combine that with the fact that you're at an elemental advantage against this boss, and he's going to be critting all the time. Alright, that's Steel Fortress. Now let's talk about Punisher's Crypt. If you've been around the channel for a while, you might be familiar with the Vampires Walking Dogs team. And that, well, that's making a return. Because it's even better than before. And the fact that this boss is passive and his HP got nuked from orbit, that means that you should be able to go face right off the get. Just as a reminder though, if you try to reduce the boss's attack bar, it will instead be boosted up to 100%. That's why you're not going to be seeing Lauren in this dungeon recommendation. It's what brought us to the doghouse. The first member of the team, the fastest one, and our leader, reprising his role, Ergar, the Dark Vampire Lord. Attack leader skill, attack buff, and slow on skill 2, along with all that other garbage that he puts on with skill 2. But don't get me wrong, you know what they say about garbage. Raccoons really like it. Slow is extra valuable here because the boss reduces incoming damage based on speed. Ideally, you'll have the same Ergar from the Steel Fortress team working his same magic here. Next is Second Awakened Rauk. It's good to have at least one, if not both, of your other dogs move before Crow, so that way the boss is more likely to have a defense break on him by the time it reaches your primary damage dealer's turn. So with that in mind, I used a faster Rauk, one that I have ruined on Swift, though you could also put him on a violent set. Ultimately, you just want him to be faster than Crow. And even if he's not on violent, he's still going to give the illusion of being on violent on the way up to the boss, considering he gets an additional turn as long as he's the one to confirm a takedown on an enemy. So with that in mind, you could root him on speed crit damage attack or just attack crit damage attack and on Swift. Let's go ahead and talk about the other dog, Ikaru. At one point in the game, this dog was chasing around all the bosses like they were the mailman. It's not every day you see a monster pull 3 additional units on a team-up skill. And another source of defense break. Remember, the magic number for that defense is 2381, assuming that your defense skill is maximized. Look for as much defense as humanly possible. If that means triple guard with defense artifacts, or if that means multiple sets of determination, so be it. Just make this guy pull 3 units. It's so important. I would say that other important stats for Ikaru include attack, because technically, even though he requires defense to pull units, he doesn't scale with defense, right? So he still needs attack to deal damage. And also look for accuracy, because you really want him to land defense break. Next, the last dog on our team, Second Awakened Crow. And in theory, this could be the same Crow from the last guide. I'm not trying to make you ruin more than you need to. I feel like I should talk about it here too. If you can't quite scrounge up all that speed with all the defense for Ikaru, it's totally okay if Crow moves ahead of him. In fact, in the gameplay that you're seeing behind me, Crow does move ahead of Ikaru. So it's not the end of the world. We're just talking about optimal team. Yeah, you know, you get it. It's whatever. Anyway, we're talking about Crow. Big debuff scaling damage. Not much has changed between Steel Fortress and Punisher's Crypt. Crow's role is the same. That's all the dogs, but we got one more vampire. It's Verd, the fire one. If you had a Trickaroo team in the past, you may already have your Vertihile ruined on high damage. If you don't, well, I would strongly recommend it. It's awesome. Rage, Fatal, or Violent, whatever, 100% crit rate. That is the most important part of Verd. You can focus on damage later. Like, this can be an iterative process. We love Verd because he can offer a little bit of damage, but he can also boost your attack bars. And when you have so many dogs who all have team-ups, you're usually going to pull Vertihile and then boost your attack bars back up, and you're just going to end up getting a lot of turns. Great. I think that's everything. That's the complete starter guide for Artifact Dungeons. All right, later. Thanks for watching.